It's been really, really good. The reception has, I think. I think Ugandans are people who are very in touch with reality. They still use common sense. I think the reason for that is the fact that they live lives that are almost not untouched by technology, but certainly not controlled by technology.
I come to give you very important insights, especially regarding Joseph Mayer's visit to Uganda. Joseph Mayers has been a blessing to many of the schools where we have visited and where we had a number of creation seminars. Joseph Mayers came at a very important time when we needed someone to give a proof of evidence, like someone who has lived in countries where evolution has eaten up, because people took time to embrace evolutionary theory. We took chance to go to a number of schools, especially secondary schools. We have been to Kapujan Community School. We have been to Katakwi High School. We have been to Olila High School and some other schools within the country. And Joseph Mayers gives a teaching, a solid teaching, a confirmation, but also as an eyewitness, someone who lives in the United States, especially in Kansas, a place where people's views concerning evolution are so much high. And he has given a confirmation to our students that it is truly very dangerous to embrace evolutionary teaching and rejecting the true Catholic doctrine of creation as the only true foundation.
So Stephen asked me to come up and talk a little bit about how evolution has taken over the West, specifically Europe and North America. I'm going to try to talk extra slow because in America we tend to speak very, very quickly. In fact, the first talk that I gave was about 2 minutes long, and Stephen said I should have gone for about an hour given the content. So I'm going to try to speak a little slower. The evolution ideology, philosophy, it's now gained the stature of a religion, really, more than anything else. And it's overstepped the bounds of science while still clothing itself in the guise of science. So what do I mean by this? First, we'd have to look at what is science. So science is, in the way that we understand it in the modern sense, is the study of how the material world operates. It's a study of how the material world operates, how trees gain nutrition from the soil, how they convert sunlight into energy, etc. What it's not is the study of how things came to be. Science is not capable of explaining why the tree exists. It's capable of telling you how the tree functions, but it cannot tell you why the tree exists. That is the realm of higher sciences than merely natural science. What happened around the turn of the century, the end of the 1800s, the early 1900s, is there were certain men, Charles Darwin, Charles Lyell, who were scientists, and they started playing with these philosophical ideas about how perhaps observing the processes in the material world can explain the origins of how the material world came to be. Just by observing the way things are now, we can extrapolate from that how they came to be in the first place. And this was a very unique time in history, because at the same time you had going on the Industrial Revolution, and humanity was on the brink of hurling itself into the First World War. And man was very tired of God, very tired of religion, Western man. Europe specifically, a lot of people, you can see this in the French Revolution, some of the thinkers, they're very tired of the idea of God. And at the same time, science, this word science was like it was like a magical thing, because science was giving man the automobile. It was giving man air conditioning. It was giving man the railroad. It was giving man steam power, like the ability to dominate the natural world. And with this industrialization was an ever-growing sentiment of pride, a feeling that man is the greatest thing in the universe and that man can do anything, and that the bounds of man's power were ever increasing and perhaps infinite. And so then you've got these characters coming along who are proposing this idea of an alternative to a world subject to a creator, to a God. And for the first time in human history, God is debatable. We have some sort of rational theory which we can use to doubt and to debate the mere existence of a God. And so this really, really took off because of the concatenation of all of these circumstances. People, the rich, the powerful, those who wanted to do whatever they wanted, they immediately they grabbed hold of this theory, and religion was thrown out, and this took its place. So now, basically, in the West, you can replace the word God with the word science pretty much anywhere, and science can explain everything. Without science, like, man wouldn't be able to do anything. Science this, science that. When in reality, it's a religion of science that we're seeing. And this gives man the ability to do things, to justify things that he never did before, he never even dreamed of doing before. Things like abortion. It's like, I'm now the highest thing in the created universe. My will is sovereign. Whatever I want to do, I can. I don't want to have a baby. It's economically inconvenient. I can just kill it. I mean, it's debatable that there even is a baby. It's totally like, yeah, I have a right to do that. I have a right to kill my own child. If I am a man and I'm attracted to another man, I have the right to contract a legal marriage with this other man and call it a marriage, and persecute those who say it's not marriage. This is what's happening in my country right now. This is what's happening in Europe right now. For the first time, we believe that we are the greatest things, that we run the show, and that no one can tell us what to do. And it's the evolution ideology and the religion of science, the scientific materialism, that gives us the justification for all these things. And it's also very much affected the church. Church's official position on evolution is to have the experts talk about it and see what they come up with and wait for all the evidence to be compiled and then issue a decision. The church has made no ruling on it, but many people are very, I'd say the main thing pushing evolution within the church and church circles is human respect. The fact that the people who are espousing this theory, this science, are pushing it as fact, and they're arguing it not from evidence so much as from authority. I have a PhD. I studied mathematics for 8 years. I'm wearing a white lab coat. I'm employed by a prestigious university. Who are you to doubt my theory of reality? Who are, like, come on. And at the same time, these experts strategically have been weeding out anyone who opposes them. And now, I mean, it would be almost completely impossible. It's utterly impossible. It would be utterly impossible for Stephen to give a talk in a public school in the United States or in Europe, similar to the talks that he's able to give here. Even though these same schools say that they want to encourage diversity and open debate and a marketplace of ideas. It's not the case. It's not the case. And these questions are important for the individual and for the student, because there's 4 questions that every person has to answer and ask. And there's 2 ways to answer them. The questions are, who am I? Why am I here? Where did I come from? And where am I going? If evolution is true, the evolution narrative is true, who am I? I really don't know. I'm a blob of carbon atoms that are kind of randomly assorted, and I'm just kind of here. I'm not really sure there is such a thing as me. It's pretty debatable. I kind of don't know. I'm just going to do what I want for now because I don't really know. Why am I here? No reason. No reason whatsoever. Impossible to answer that question. Where did I come from? Well, I mean, a few million years ago, my great-great-great-grandma was an ape, and then before that, probably some amphibian type creature, and before that, probably a fish, and then like a smaller organism that maybe came from a single cell, that came from like a blob and some ooze and a lightning strike a few billion years ago. Like, if you add enough billion years, it's possible, and this is the best explanation that we have. That's where we come from. We're pretty sure about it. We're pretty sure. Where am I going? Absolutely nowhere. On the other hand, if creation is true, who am I? I am an immortal creature and child of the ever-living God. Why am I here? I'm here to love him and to express his beauty and to order creation in his image. Where did I come from? I was formed by his hand. Where am I going? I'm going to be with him forever. These are the questions that really bring the importance of the issue home to the individual person and take it outside of the realm of microscopes, equations on blackboards, and prestige. That's all I really have to say. I'm sure Stephen has some closing remarks, but thank you guys, and God bless you.
I would love to give you a testimony myself. I have been with these students, and the coming of Joseph has been a relief to us because he has spoken as an eyewitness, a person who lives in this sarcastic situation, a beautiful world that has been corrupted by wrong doctrine of evolution. And he has been able to give detailed interpretation, detailed narrative on how evolutionary theory has been able to eat up the family life, how it has been able to eat up academicians, how it has been able to eat up morals, how it has been able to eat up character in general, but also how evolutionary theory has been able to eat up common sense. As people that are so much informed, learned, educated, I would say, cannot be able to differentiate the truth. And in one of his talk, one of the key things that became so significant is that the moment one begins debating about God, just debating about God, God's existence, and God's greatness, it's already a mess. And this became a very key point to teachers, but also to learners in the schools, that matters about God should not be matters of debate, because God is a supreme being, God is omnipresent, God is omnipotent, God is all that we need to appreciate and not to debate about. And he gave a very clear depiction that Americans and developed countries in general who gave a chance for the existence of God to be debated gave room for doubt, gave room for evil to penetrate through academia and so be able to eat up the entire church. I would love to thank the Kolbe Center very sincerely for allowing Joseph Myers to come. But also, I would encourage that if you could send us more volunteers of this kind to come to our country, Uganda, it would be a great deal that many people would be saved, but also it would be a good confirmation as a dimension of giving presentations to our mission or during our mission in Uganda. Kolbe Center is a great deal.
The evolution conversation here is really at a very early and very philosophical stage, I think. It seems like most people who have not heard the conversation started, heard the message, or had the conversation started, they've heard kind of the two narratives. They've heard the materialism narrative. They've also heard the religious narrative, but they've never taken the time to like sit down and like reconcile the two or try and figure out which one's right and which one's wrong. They just kind of leave them there. And this is bringing those questions, bringing those two into sharp contrast and giving the reasons for and against each one. And I think that people are they seem to have their priorities straight, and they're like, here abortion is illegal. They've never seen homosexuality before. Transgenderism is like a laughable story, which is really a beautiful thing to see. It's very refreshing that they've retained their innocence that far, and traditional family values are very much in place, because the traditional family is very much in place. There's children everywhere. People think of them as a gift. Abortion, yeah, like I said, abortion's illegal. So they're really very ripe, I think, for the message, and they're also receiving it in a very philosophical way, at a philosophical level, asking philosophical principle-based questions, because they don't really live in a world that's dominated by microscopes, air conditioning, automobiles. They're very much still in touch with the natural world and with their own common sense. So I would say that's the overall state of things as I've seen it, and it's very refreshing as a Westerner. Yeah, going forward, I'd say definitely keep going. I think it would be interesting to have a very in-depth Q&A sessions and deal with any specific concerns that may exist. I think that the strategy of going into schools one by one through pre-existing Christian youth organizations is really wise and extremely effective, and seems to work very well. People are like actually open to intellectual diversity here, like in a real way. Like they'll actually like, they want to have these conversations. There doesn't seem to be an ideological dominance in place, even for Christianity. It seems like people are very, very, very open-minded and genuinely curious, and at the same time retaining their common sense, which is really, really promising. But yeah, I think if I would make a suggestion, it would probably be in-depth Q&A sessions, and allowing people to bring up any specific issue that they may have heard or thought about or struggled with.
I guarantee, united as one body of Christ, being created in the image of God, we can be able to be the light of hope, the only ray that must strike the surface and reflect God's goodness each time we give a presentation. We have vowed as Ugandans, we don't want to allow evolutionary theory even to be a matter of debate, because this is wasting time And we want to explain and disclose every fatal flaws of evolutionary claims, that people will appreciate why it is good for us to cling on God, love Him, promote His kingdom, and so be able to live a life of peace. I thank you.